Welcome to the podcast. Life ain't fair. Wait, anyway. You know what I mean. We're here to lift you up.
I think the most important and significant impacts to me was that I grew up in a home of domestic violence. My birthdays became sad days for me because if I wasn't born, my mother wouldn't have to go through what she was going through. That was so hard to carry as a child. I dreaded my birthdays. I cried every day. Girl, I remember being in that apartment one day, Tasha, with my Bible. And I said, Lord, if you don't help me, I ain't gonna be able to make it. I don't have anything else. Your entrance into the world may not have been the perfect entrance or what people say is the perfect entrance, but you are here because God has a plan for your life and it's to give you an expected end. God doesn't hold stuff against us, and we intentionally do those things that we know we should not do. And yet he's so gracious and so merciful and so kind to us daily. Hello. Life ain't fair, but we win anyway. That's right. We are here to lift you up. Hello, everybody. I am Tijuana T.J. Everhart, and welcome to the Life Ain't Fair, Win Anyway podcast. And I'm excited. I have my friend talking with Todd Carter is on here today. But guess what, guys? You know what? You're going to get a chance to hear from me during this episode. And Todd has a podcast, so we're just collaborating as we talk about my life ain't fair moments. So the podcast is really about those times when you may have had a challenging moment. The guest and myself, we talk about those times. If you've ever had a moment where you said, why me? If you ever had a moment where you could not believe this was happening to you, if you ever had a moment where you were stuck, where you were hurt and wounded and did not know how you were going to make it, this podcast is just for you, because all of us have had moments where we said life is not fair. But some of us are here to tell you how we got over on the other side. And that's what this podcast is for. So you know what I tell you to do? Go and share, tell everybody come on board. Also, here's another thing. It is not just for you to hear the stories and to tickle your ears. It is to transform your life, for you to listen to the podcast and grab something out of what was said. So what I'm going to ask you to do, I'm going to ask you, if you haven't already, go to my website, www.tjeverhart.com. You can download the Life Ain't Fair Win Anyway workbook and journal so that you can work alongside me as I'm speaking. Or you can go to Amazon and order the book, because I want you just to reflect. I don't want you to just hear our stories and be like, oh, that's so great that they made it. No, I want you to see that you can make it too. So I said enough. I think Todd Carter. Welcome, girl. Welcome.
Thank you. All right. So, TJ, tell us about the backstory as to the title of your podcast, Life Ain't Fair.
So the backstory, my friend, came from, I mentioned it in the introduction episode. You know, people, they look at me. You know me, they look at my life that I live now. They see me and they think, oh, okay, everything is great. She looks great and her family is great, all these things. But what people don't know a lot of times is what I've gone through to get to this point. And so that's what the podcast was based upon. It's really based upon me saying to people, hey, if I can make it, you can make it too. And so I've had a few, Tasha. I've had a few moments in my life. I think about it now, about to cry, when I really said, God, this is not fair. I can't, I can't even quite verbalize it sometimes, friend. When I think back on it, there are a lot of things I could share. I think the most important and significant impacts to me was that I grew up in a home of domestic violence. My father, my dad, you will hear me say my dad. So my dad was very violent towards my mom. But I was such a daddy's girl. That's the crazy thing. Like, I was the daddy's girl, Tosh. Like, wherever my daddy went, I wanted to go. Like, if my dad, I can remember my daddy would want to go and wash the car. But you know what? You're a daddy's girl too. So I know
Oh, absolutely. Yes, I am.
yes, you are a daddy's girl. And my girls are daddy's girls. So I would, wherever my daddy was going, I remember I would want to go. And so, but I do recall my dad just was very violent. And when I say violent, like I have memories of when, girl, I remember one time my mom would leave and, she was leave, come back, leave, come back. I can remember one time my dad even put a gun to my little sister's head to keep my mom from leaving.
Oh, wow.
So I visualized a lot of that stuff I saw. And just really, it was bad. It was just really bad. I don't know if I knew people knew my mom was in domestic violence. I know my family knew. But of course, people don't know what's going on the inside for real.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody does. So it was moments like this. I remember one time my dad shot my mom and my sister and I were there, and he shot her in the hand, and he would not let us call the police or the ambulance. And so for a while, my sister and I had to sit there with my mom bleeding, and he finally let us call the police. But let me go back to say, my story is not to victimize myself or to make my dad look like just the worst person in the world, because that's never what I want people to focus on. What I want people to know is that it was just tough. Like, my friends used to be my safe place. I had, all I would think about is just getting out of the house, any excuse to leave out of the house. So I had my friends, I had Munch, Munch, Joanna, and my friend Yvonne, who was Boo, because we lived like right outside of Lumber Village. For those that know, in Titusville, Lumber's Village is a housing authority, and my two best friends lived in the housing authority, and we stayed right outside. So I would go to their houses. I would go to my friends' houses. I would go outside all the time just to get out of the house because it was so chaotic. And so one of the worst moments, I want to say, it was a lot of bad moments, and it wasn't every day. Like, also, I go back and think about my childhood too. My dad is the reason why I have such a love for music. My dad played music all throughout the house. If you came to our house, music was playing all day and night. It wasn't just on Saturdays, music was always playing. My dad taught me how to play cards. That's why I can run a table now. I learned how to play dominoes. My dad taught me how to change a tire. So it wasn't every day, but it was pretty much every day. But there were some moments of just, I could tell when I'm coming home that it was going to be a good day. It was, days where we could tell that it wasn't going to be a good day. And then there were days like, okay, today is a good day. A lot of stuff was going on. And so my uncles, my dad's brothers, especially my Uncle Ro, which was a year older than my dad, they were very close. So my uncles would be over, my aunts. It was just like music in the hood.
Mm-hmm.
And played cards, fried fish on Fridays. That was also our house. But it was also some stuff going on in there too. Like, look, like they used to say, some reefers. They used to be food. They'll come.
But that went on in a lot of houses though. I remember being small and my parents my dad would take me to the shot house. So yeah.
And girl, my dad used to have me going over to the lady house buying the stuff. So I used to have to walk and go get the cigarettes and the reefer.
Oh, I did that too. Yeah, I did that at the corner store.
Yeah. So, but I enjoyed, like, that was my fun side of my family. Like, my aunts and my uncles and all that kind of stuff used to be the fun side. It was just the hard times. So one of the most difficult moments for me was one of those days my mother decided to leave, and I would always want to stay with my dad, and my mom would go and leave, and she took my sister with her. Well, this particular time, this was a pattern. My mama would leave, come, leave, go, leave. And I think, people probably got tired of her knowing that she was going to leave and go back, but she for whatever reason. And, I don't know, but probably just thinking I need to work this out. But so my mom would leave and go. But this particular time, my mother left and I wanted to stay with my dad. And my mama said I could stay with my dad. Well, in my dad's anger at my mom, and I probably was when I try to think about it, maybe about 12 or so. That's about 12, Tasha. And my dad, in his anger towards my mom, turns around and says to me, your mama effed another N-word and got pregnant with you, and I'm not your daddy.
I don't even know. Yeah. I don't even know how I would feel being a little girl in that moment. Especially one who really, really loved their dad. Yeah. Yeah. I can see that's a hard moment.
So now I become the child who realizes that the reason why my mother is being beat all the time is because of me. It's because she got pregnant by someone else while being married to my dad. And he has to look at me every day as a reminder of what was done. So now it's my fault. And now it's, why did she keep me? Why didn't you just give me away? Then my birthdays became sad days for me. Because if I wasn't born, my mother wouldn't have to go through what she was going through. And so that was so hard to carry as a child. I dreaded my birthdays.
I mean, when you told me, yeah, I was like, I didn't understand it when you first told me that.
I cried every day, almost. It was, Lord, why? And so, going back, I was like, okay, so my mother had me, she was 19 years old. My dad was off in Vietnam, and he comes back to his wife, and both of them young. My mother got married at 17, and my dad was 19, 20, you know what I'm saying? So you have some 19, 20, 21-year-olds. And as I got older and as I've kind of processed it all, I will say that I think a lot of things my dad needed help with. I believe, first of all, he was in Vietnam, and we know how those men were when they came back, all that they had dealt with. I realized that it had to have been embarrassing for him. I don't think he had the tools he needed to handle. I appreciate it because I never was treated as if I wasn't. My aunts and my uncles never treated me. Still don't. I'm the favorite. I still say I'm the favorite.
I know, right?
Sorry, I'm the favorite. My grandparents, I love my family. I love my dad's family. They're my family. And so, but I became also, Tasha, the thing we don't talk about. I wasn't a person. I was the situation. I was the thing. So we couldn't talk about anything related to that. I have cousins, my mom's side, like they just finding this out a couple of years ago. And I'm
really,
yes, it was the secret. I was the secret, but I wasn't treated like a person. I was treated like the secret. And so my safety net was just to suppress, like it was really just to survive. Let me just survive. Let me find happiness. And like my friends, I'm so thankful. The Bible tells us that there's a friend that'll stick closer to you than a brother. And my friends, oh God, I thank you. My friends were my happy place. I could go to their house and not think about what's going on in my house. Even though, like I said, their house was in the projects, but still, it wasn't my house. I could get away. And so I went off to school. I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait to graduate so I can go to school and get away. But through all of this, though, I've been in the church all my life. I don't know a moment that I wasn't in church. So even through all of this time, I've always been very active in church. People that know me know I sing and used to sing all the time in church. I just was a church child. And that was a refuge for me also. So I go off to college and had the time of my life, girl. I had the time of my absolute life. Go off to college. I had my first roommate, which was my girlfriend from high school. And then I found my bestie. Peyton became my bestie and my roommate in college. I found my friends in college. I tried my best not to go home as much as possible. I didn't go home. I would go. If I did come home, I would go to Peyton's house. I would go everywhere but home. When I think about it, like, home was not the place to be. It was be everywhere but home. And yeah, those were leading up to, who I am today. But I would tell you that time period in my life, when I look back over it, very little joy, very little felt very little self-worth, wasn't excited to be alive.
So what you're saying is that the trauma just made you internalize it, pretty much, is what you're saying?
Oh, for sure. For sure. And yeah, because I felt like if I wasn't here, she wouldn't be going through she wouldn't have to go through this. If I couldn't, I'm like, why didn't you just give me away? Just
no,
give me away. Why? And I so am thankful for my mother's strength in keeping me.
Yeah.
And yeah, because I probably should have been shipped off somewhere. Baby, by the time he came home from Vietnam, I probably should have been,
TJ, she couldn't do that. I mean, no, you're a mother yourself, so you have to think about it from her perspective. It doesn't matter who child it is. It's like, it's still my child. I'm not going to.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
That's that love. That's that mother's love. It's like you're not, because you're a part of her. So she couldn't.
Yeah. I just felt so bad, like, girl, I used to.
But you didn't do anything. You didn't do anything. So it's like, but you still was a child. So I can understand how you're feeling like it's your fault, but you didn't have a dog in the fight.
I know. I didn't even ask to be here. And I know, as an adult, of course, and as I've worked through, a lot of this stuff, I can sit back and say, God, I'm so thankful. And I can sit back and say it. I remember when in Jeremiah, he says, before you were born in your mother's womb, I knew you.
Mm-hmm.
So God had a purpose and a plan for this life, no matter how I got here. And that is the same thing for anybody else that's watching too. Your entrance into the world may not have been the perfect entrance or what people say is the perfect entrance, but you are here because God has a plan for your life, and it's to give you an expected end. And when I look back over my life, I can't, girl, that's why most people can't even imagine when I tell this story, because I don't look like what I've been through. And especially, like I'm going back to, I went off to college. I went to Jacksonville State, had a time, honey. Ooh, I had a ball in school. I think that was the best year of my life. I had so much fun. I was doing any and everything, child. We ain't had no money. We was getting on the road.
There was some
Me
good
and my
times back.
friend, look, yes, ma'am. I had a ball because I wasn't home. And so my first year of school, my dad paid for my school. My second year going into school, my dad said he wasn't paying for school anymore. So I had to come home. I transferred back to Birmingham, and I ended up, first I took some classes at community college, and then I transferred over to UAB. And I had to get a full-time job. I had to work. I had to work, I had to go to school, but guess what? I'm back at home, right? And at this time, my sister, 17, my sister's 3 years younger than me. So I'm back home, I'm working, Tasha, and I'm working at the credit union, 6th Avenue Baptist Church Credit Union. I am in school full time, working full time. And I get a phone call from my aunt, Deb, and she tells me that I need to get to UAB hospital, that my mom had been rushed to the hospital. So let me go back to that day. That morning, I got up to go to work. My mother and my dad was sitting in the living room. And there would be times when I could look at my dad and he would have a look on his face, and I would know it wasn't going to be a good day for my mom. And also, she was still at home. So there were days he would not allow her to go to work. So I knew it wasn't going to be a good day for her. I left her and went to work. But I couldn't stop it. I just remember even sometimes when I was younger, I would say stuff like, somebody's going to die if y'all don't stop. Like, stop. Girl, I used to plot stuff, how I was going to, girl, Lord, I plotted how I was going to poison my daddy, all kinds of stuff. And so that particular day, I went to work. And so I knew it wasn't going to be a good day for my mom. And so I get a call from my aunt. She tells me I need to go to UAB hospital. My mom had been rushed to the hospital. I had gotten in the car, and a year before, so this was 92, in 91, I met the guy who is now my husband at a party at UAB. So he was my boyfriend at the time. I don't remember how I got to his house, but I left work and drove to his house. And I said, I need you to take me to UAB hospital. Now, I was in Titusville at 6th Avenue. You know, UAB was down the road. But I drove to Ensley. I drove to Ensley, and I told him I needed him to take me to UAB hospital. My mom had been rushed to the hospital. When I get to the hospital, the doctor comes out, and the doctor tells me that my mother had been burned with 3rd-degree burns from her waist up. And my mother had a 3% chance of living that day. That was August of 1991. August of 1991. I had met Chuck in January. And so my mother was burned when she was burned. And I remember when they rolled her body past us, Chuck didn't even recognize my mother because everything on her was burned. No hair, no skin. It was like a white body had rolled past me. And they told me she had a 3% chance of living that day. And so my mother ended up being in the hospital from August of 91, and my mother passed April the 9th of 1992. I had just turned 20 on March the 10th of 19. I turned 20 years old and my mother died. So now I'm 20, thrust into this world as an adult with a 17-year-old sister who I'm having to see. It was just, oh God. And I could stay on here all day talking about that part too. It was so unfair. Why my mom?
To see it. When you just said it, I didn't. I just never even thought about you having to see her before they did anything to her. You know, like, you know how they banish them up and things like that. That in itself is a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then at 20.
Yeah.
I'm 20. So at 20 years old, I can remember I ended up getting an apartment on my own. Girl, I remember being in that apartment one day, Tasha, with my Bible. And I said, Lord, if you don't help me, I ain't gonna be able to make it. I don't have anything else. And I tell people that it's in those moments. You've been in church all your days. It's real easy to praise God, talk about how good he is and all of that. But when life ain't fair and the challenges come in your life, that is the time that you lean in to what you've been listening to and learning all these days. So I remember that he said he'd never leave me. He'd never forsake me. That he was with me always. No matter where I went, he was with me. And so when I started thinking about how did I get over? How am I on this side? Because on this side, I'm so free. I have joy. I have peace. I have comfort. I have B statistics. It's just, I mean, I look back over and I'm like, God, you sure did kick this little, you sure kept this little baby right here. You kept this baby right here. But yeah, so it was, okay, God, you are my father. You are my father. You are the mother to the motherless. And that was what I started leaning in on. He helped me because I started I got to trust you. Faith is the substance of the things that we hope for. It's the things that we don't see. So I got to trust you because I don't know how I'm going to make it. I'm 20. How am I going to make it? I got to go to school. I got to work. I got a sister who needs to go off to college. Me and my husband, I end up got married. Chuck and I got married 2 years after my mom passed. We got married. It was so much. But God has been faithful. He put people around me that encouraged me when I started. I look back over as I was writing the book and all these things, I started thinking about some of the things that God was just consistent with me. He consistently put friends around me that loved me, kept me. I am probably one of those people. I truly, truly value my friendships because my friends, your friends don't have to do for you. You choose to love your friends, your family. You love your family, but your friends, you choose to love them and they choose to love you. And so my friends, girl, I'm so thankful. My friends were there with me. My godparents were there. God just kept me. He just kept me. And yeah, I made it. I pressed through. Another big piece was forgiveness. I remember when my mom passed, and I know this may sound odd to some people, but when my mom passed, I said it was finished. Meaning, I was not going to pick up and carry the anger on her behalf. I was not going to be like some people said I deserved. I probably could have been angry at my dad. Never speak to him again. Never see about him. I could have, right? Like that was your mama. He did. I just refused to walk in that, Tasha. I refused. I'm like, I'm not going to do it. I am not about to pick up the mantle and carry it. And so that was the first thing, forgiveness. Who am I? And I used to say, who am I? Who am I to hold anything against somebody? God doesn't hold stuff against us, and we intentionally do those things that we know we should not do. And yet he's so gracious and so merciful and so kind to us daily. Who was I to feel like I had the right to inflict judgment on my dad? I would tell you he dealt with his own thing afterwards. And so I ended up, girl, my dad, he wasn't in a good place. I remember having to go to an abandoned home to go and find my dad. I remember I was having to take him to the doctor, all kinds of stuff. But I want everybody to get that. People will harm you, they will hurt you, and they will do things, but you can choose to carry it, or you can choose to cast it. And I chose to cast it. I just refused to not be angry with him.
That's good, because I was just going to ask you that. I was going to say, even after your mom passed, you still did for your dad. How good is that? Because that just lets you know that all the teachings that you got from church, it helped you to soften your heart enough to still go and see about him.
Yeah. I mean, come on. We get new mercies. I wasn't okay. Holding on unforgiveness hurts you. You think you hurting the other person, but you know how much energy it takes to be angry at somebody and to harbor harm to them. You know how much energy that takes. And it is so freeing when I said, I'm not about to do that. And rightfully so. I think people expected me to. I know they did.
Yeah. But I know for myself, whenever I was in unforgiveness for a situation that happened in my life, it was literally eating me up inside, trying to, just like the anger that I had that I wasn't releasing, it was doing more harm to me than to the person, because it just grieved my spirit.
Yeah,
really bad.
It stays on your mind. You can't get past it. You know, I just wasn't going to carry it. And my mother was born again. My mom went but 39 years old, which that was too young. But my mother was born again. So I knew right now she ain't got to worry about that no more. That was my thought process. My mom does not have to worry about being beat anymore. You know, she's walking on streets of gold and she's in peace and all these kind of things. I'm going to be in some peace too. I'm not going to pick it up. So to anyone that's watching, for sure, yeah, it's valid. What was done to you is valid. And I'm not saying minimize. And I also say to some people, forgiveness doesn't necessarily mean put back into the same position we were before the incident happened. So for some people, it may have to be very different from you. It may be, I forgive you, but we're no longer communicating, or we're not in a relationship that I forgive. But for me, it was just, okay, so that was the big step towards wholeness. And so forgiveness, and then God put people around me that was iron sharpening iron. I joined the music ministry, Abundant Life music ministry, with Vanessa Petway, Mark Petway, and other friends. And I was young, right? So that was the first time I was around a whole bunch of young people on fire for God. So that was easy. They were keeping me encouraged and in the word. And, you know, then me and Chuck joined Faith Chapel, we in the word, and the word just starts. I trusted what God said to be true for me. He is Jehovah Jireh, the God that sees ahead and provide for me. He is. I just had to believe God is who he said he is, regardless of what it looked like, because it didn't look good. Tasha, it didn't look good. Girl, whoo, me and Chuck. So we 20, 225. I don't even know, girl. My sister off in Alabama. Me and him got to go move her in. Take her out. We got to move her out. I mean, like.
You had to grow up fast.
In our 20s, early 20s. And it was, girl, it was just, but you cannot tell me he is not a keeper, because he is most definitely a keeper. He will keep you in perfect peace if your mind is stayed on him. So now I am in perfect peace. My house is peaceful. I love when people come over my house and they be like, girl, your house is so peaceful. Yes, because when I grew up in chaos, I need peace. I remember being in my apartment one time and my neighbor had dropped something. This is my first apartment. And I was on the bottom and a neighbor upstairs. Girl, I remember my neighbor dropped something and I jumped. That's like PTSD from hearing bumps and stuff as I, from growing up. And I would jump. No, we're not about to have that kind of life. So my life is peaceful. I am joyous. Y'all gonna have to hear the rest of the story, but I did meet my biological father when I turned 45 years old, and there's a whole story around that.
That was good too. Like, yeah.
Whole story around that. But anyway, God has truly blessed me. I was looking up some statistics. That's some of the things. I just sit back and look at some of the statistics that I've beaten. And I was looking at a statistic that says children that grow up in a home of domestic violence are 3 to 4 times more likely to be in an abusive relationship. I've never had not one boyfriend to hit me. Never. Maybe because they probably know I'm going to set it off to the left and to the right. They going to look and I'm a book. But praise the Lord, they never tried to see. Me and my cousins on my mom's side, and probably my dad's side too, we are first generation 4-year college graduates. So my first cousins and I, and statistics says that only 24 to 27% of first generation individuals complete a bachelor's degree. Only 24 to 27%. Not only did I do that, I have a master's degree. I grew up in in an apartment. My parents never owned a home. I was looking at the statistics on that. It says 43 to 46% of African Americans own a home, where those whose parents owned one are 7% more likely to purchase one. And I'm on my third one. So I know that there are a lot of children like me. I think about the story of Isaac and Ishmael. And I talk about this sometimes when people invite me out to kind of talk about my story. And I say, a lot of times when people are ministering about Isaac and Ishmael, so just a backstory for people that don't know the story. Abraham had a wife named Sarah, and God had promised Abraham that a son would be born from him and Sarah. But Abraham was so old, in his 90s, and his wife was 80 something, close to 90. They didn't believe it to be the case. So his wife, Sarah, had a bright idea. I am going to let you have she was a slave, but my indentured help. And I want you to sleep with her. And then maybe that's what God was talking about when he said, we'll have a child. So Abraham goes in, sleeps with, her name is Hagar. He goes in to sleep with Hagar, and Hagar gets pregnant. And Hagar ends up having a son. His name is Ishmael. Well, that wasn't what God was talking about. That wasn't the promise that God had. He didn't have Hagar to be the mother. He had Sarah, and he didn't have Ishmael to be the promise. He had Isaac. So Abraham and Sarah end up getting pregnant, and they have the son Isaac. A lot of times people always, you hear a lot of ministers and people speak against Ishmael. And they'll say, don't get the Ishmael. Don't have the Ishmael. And I tell people, well, call me Ishmael, because it's the same situation. However, what people don't remember in the story or don't look at the story. So Hagar was making fun of, Ishmael was making fun of Isaac, and Sarah got mad. She was like, oh no, that son of yours and his mama got to go. So Hagar and her son, they have to go out into the wilderness. Abraham tell them they got to go. Well, while they're in the wilderness, Ishmael is crying, and an angel comes to Hagar and says, God hears the lad that's over there. The name Ishmael means God hears. God still heard Ishmael, and he still blessed Ishmael, despite how Ishmael got here. So God hears me. God hears any other child, because most of the time people mistreat that child that was born outside of a marriage, because my biological father was married too. So he had a wife, my mom had a husband. Most of the time people mistreat those kids. They act like you don't see them in the pictures. You don't talk about them. But I want that kid to know, just like Ishmael, God hears. And just like God had a plan and a purpose for my life, he has a plan and a purpose for theirs too. And it doesn't matter how you got here. The plan that he has for you is good, and you will have an expected end. So I operate in my expected end. And now I thank God that he uses my life. Ishmael, he uses this girl who cried every day, almost every single day. I make people laugh. People say I'm just, okay, I guess. But he uses my life, and I stand in awe of that. And I am grateful that my latter days are so much better than my beginning. And this is just the beginning. God is not done with me yet. And I'm here to tell the story so somebody else can be encouraged that, yeah, life may be unfair, but thanks be unto God who causes us to triumph. And in everything, we are more than a conqueror. So you got to just stay in the fight. Keep going through the valley. Don't sit in it. Get this word in you. Trust his word. Tell the devil he's a liar, that God hears. God has a plan for me. And if he has it for me, he has it for you. So Tasha, that is the purpose of the Life Ain't Fair Win Anyway podcast.
Thank you for sharing your story.
So everybody, I hope this was a blessing to you. Listen, this ain't all the stories. Just I'm trying not to be on here long. Save the date for August the 22nd. August the 22nd here in Birmingham, Alabama, we're going to have the Life Ain't Fair Win Anyway live experience where the podcast guests will be on panels. You'll get a chance to ask me and them questions. Also, I ask that you follow me on all social media platforms at TJ Everhart. You can go to my website, tjeverhart.com. If you want to be a guest on the show, if you have a story of transformation where you don't look like what you've been through and you know your story will be a blessing to someone and help somebody else, please fill out the form on the website, be a guest, download the workbook, get the workbook and the journal on Amazon, share, like, subscribe, and I would love to have your feedback. So thank you so much for being on today. Thank you, Todd, for letting me share the space with you. I hope your guests, how can they get in touch with you?
All right. So you can follow me on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Threads, Todd Carter. But on Instagram and Threads is _ Todd Carter. YouTube.
All right, everybody. So, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's it.
Oh, okay. So everybody, please flood her pages. like, subscribe, and follow. I thank you so much. Hey, life ain't fair, but you can win anyway. Good night and good day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Undeniable, we're unstoppable. Oh, you know we are like fate fair, but we win. Amen.